I am the man who killed half the universe. Not in rage, not in conquest, in mercy. They call me a monster, a tyrant, the mad titan. But madness is just sanity that arrives before its time. I didn't destroy. I balanced. And if you're listening to this, if you survived the snap, you're alive because I loved you enough to let you live. My name is Thanos, and I am the only one who had the will to do what was necessary. I wasn't born mad. I was born aware. Titan, my home, a paradise, golden skies, crystalline cities, technology that made us feel like gods. We had everything, resources, knowledge, peace, prosperity. We thought we'd transcended struggle, thought we'd solved existence, thought our civilization would last forever. We were children playing with infinity, and I was the only one who saw the mathematics. Population growth is exponential. Resources are finite. The equation was simple, inevitable, unsustainable. I was young when I first understood, maybe 12 cycles old, studying resource distribution in the academy, and the numbers didn't lie. They never lie. We were consuming faster than we could replenish, expanding beyond our means, building a civilization on borrowed time. I brought my findings to the council, a child before the elders, holding data they couldn't refute, showing projections they couldn't deny, begging them to see what I saw. We were dying, slowly, imperceptibly, but inevitably, and there was still time to fix it, still time to make the hard choice, still time to save ourselves. They smiled at me, patted my head, called my concerns admirable, called my projections theoretical, called my solution unthinkable. Because I had told them the truth. We needed to reduce our population. Exactly half. Random, dispassionate, fair. The only way to restore balance, the only way to survive. They laughed. Not cruelly. Worse, dismissively. Like I was a child who didn't understand complexity, who didn't grasp the nuance, who would grow out of this phase. They told me Titan was different, that our technology would save us, that we'd find another way, that sacrifice wasn't necessary when innovation existed. They chose hope over mathematics, comfort over truth, denial over action. And I believed them. I was young. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted their optimism to be wisdom. I wanted the adults to have answers I couldn't see. So I stayed quiet, stopped pushing, stopped warning, watched, waited, hoped they were right. And Titan died. Didn't happen overnight. That's what made it unbearable. It was slow, gradual, undeniable. First, the shortages, small at first, rationing, lines, slight discomfort. Temporary, they said. We're working on solutions, they said. Then the infrastructure started failing. Power grids, water purification, transportation, the systems we took for granted, collapsing under the weight of too many needs. Then the violence, people fighting over resources, neighbors killing neighbors, the civilization that thought itself enlightened, revealing the animal underneath. Then the starvation. I watched people waste away, children, elders, the strong eating the weak, the wealthy hoarding while the poor died. Every hierarchy we'd built, meaning nothing when survival was at stake. Then the plagues. Overcrowding breeds disease. Disease spreads in desperation. Medicine runs out, bodies pile up. The golden skies turned gray with cremation smoke. And through it all, through every stage of collapse, I remembered. I remembered my projection. I remembered the council dismissing me. I remembered the exact number I'd calculated. I remembered that this was preventable. Every death, every scream, every child starving in the street, preventable. If they'd just listened, if they'd just acted, if they'd just had the will to make the hard choice. But they didn't, and Titan died. Not from lack of resources, from lack of will. I stood in the ruins of our greatest city, bodies everywhere. The paradise of my childhood reduced to a graveyard, and I made a promise. To the dead, to the universe, to myself, never again. Never again would I watch a civilization die from preventable causes. Never again would I let comfort triumph over necessity. Never again would I accept there must be another way as an answer. When mathematics proved there wasn't, I would do what they couldn't, bear what they wouldn't, become what they feared, not a conqueror, a gardener, pruning the universe so it could flourish. And if that made me a monster, then I would be the monster the universe needed. The hardest part wasn't the killing, it was the conviction, maintaining absolute certainty, while committing acts that felt like atrocities. Every planet I balanced, I had to silence the voice that whispered, maybe there was another way. That voice sounded like my younger self, the boy who believed the counsel, who hoped innovation could save us, who wanted problems to have pleasant solutions. But I'd seen the proof, watched hope fail, watched innovation arrive too late, watched another way become a mass grave. So I killed that voice, over and over, on every planet. Because doubt is a luxury, and I had work to do. I started with smaller civilizations, testing my theory, refining my method. At first I chose who lived and who died, the strong, the worthy, the valuable. But that was wrong. That was ego. That was playing God based on judgment. And judgment is always biased, always flawed, always corrupt. So I developed the only fair method, random, perfectly random. Rich and poor, strong and weak, guilty and innocent, perfectly balanced. As all things should be, and you know what happened? The planets I balanced thrived. Resources replenished, conflicts decreased, survivors found abundance. Children played in streets that were safe again, skies cleared, waters cleaned. Life flourished. I gave them paradise, and they called me a monster. Because they couldn't see past the bodies, couldn't understand that death can be mercy, couldn't grasp that sometimes love looks like a knife. But I wrestled with questions. Who gave me this right? What makes my judgment superior? Am I saving the universe or satisfying trauma? Is this about Titan or about proving I was right? I examined myself ruthlessly, searched for ego, for madness, for the corruption of power. And I found clarity. This wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about mathematics, about sustainability, about preventing what happened to Titan from happening everywhere else. The universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It's not philosophy, it's physics. And I was the only one willing to accept that truth, the only one willing to act on it. The Avengers called me evil. But what is evil? Letting trillions suffer to avoid hard choices? Watching civilizations collapse out of squeamishness? Preserving individual lives at the cost of collective survival? They fought for people. I fought for life itself. They saw trees. I saw the forest. They saved individuals. I saved species. They were heroes to the present. I was a savior to the future. And the future would never thank me, because the saved never know they needed saving. The survivors never see the apocalypse that didn't happen. Prevention is invisible, success is silence, and I would bear that silence forever alone, because someone has to. There was a moment, after Gamora, after I threw her from the cliff on Vormir, after I traded the only thing I loved for the Soul Stone, after I held her broken body, after I felt what it cost. I sat alone, stone in hand, daughter dead, and I almost stopped. Because here's what they don't tell you about sacrifice. It's supposed to hurt less when it's for a greater good. It's supposed to feel noble, righteous, worth it. But it doesn't. It feels like murder, like betrayal, like destroying the only beautiful thing in your life. Gamora was my proof that I could still love, that beneath the armor and the mission and the will, there was still something human, still something capable of connection, still something that wasn't just mathematics and death. She was my daughter, not by blood, by choice. I chose her, raised her, trained her, loved her, and I killed her, threw her off a cliff, watched her fall, held her corpse, for a stone, for a mission, for a universe that would never know her name. I wanted to scream, to rage, to throw the stone into the void, to abandon everything, to admit that maybe, just maybe, the cost was too high. Because if saving the universe requires killing your daughter, what are you really saving? What kind of balance is purchased with that price? What kind of salvation is built on that foundation? I sat with those questions, let them tear at me, let myself feel the full weight, and then I remembered Titan, remembered the children starving, remembered the billions who died, remembered that they had families too. They had daughters, they had loves, and they died. Not for a purpose, not for balance, not for anything. Just died, wasted, meaningless, preventable. My pain had purpose. Gamora's death had meaning. It was horrible, unbearable. Wrong in every way that matters to the heart, but right in the only way that matters to the universe. Necessary. And if I couldn't bear the necessary, then I was no different than the Titan Council, choosing comfort over survival, choosing personal feelings over collective need, choosing to let the universe burn, rather than accept the cost of saving it. So I stood up, stone in hand, tears dried, heart dead, and I continued, not because the pain stopped, but because the mission mattered more than the pain. That's what will means. Not absence of feeling, transcendence of feeling. I am inevitable, not arrogance, mathematics. The universe tends toward entropy, toward chaos, toward imbalance. That's physics, unchangeable, inevitable. But so is the counterforce, the will to create order, to impose balance, to fight entropy. I am that counterforce. I am the universe correcting itself. I am not separate from nature. I am nature. The brutal, necessary, elegant side. The side that kills 90% of offspring so 10% can thrive. The side that burns forests so new growth can emerge. The side that destroys to create space for creation. I am the winter that makes spring possible. The death that makes life sustainable. The sacrifice that enables survival. People see me as separate from the universe, an aberration, a villain, an outside force disrupting natural order. They're wrong. I am the natural order. I'm just the part they don't want to acknowledge. The part that makes them uncomfortable. The part that reveals their civilization is as temporary as foam on waves. That thought sustained me. Through every doubt, every loss, every moment of horror at what I'd become, because I wasn't becoming anything. I was revealing what I always was, a force of nature. Wearing purple skin, and nature doesn't apologize, doesn't regret, doesn't wonder if it made the right choice. It simply is, and so am I. Inevitable. When I finally assembled the Infinity Stones, when I felt their power course through the gauntlet, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt complete. Like I'd been fragments my entire life. And now I was whole. The power to reshape reality, to rewrite existence, to undo what was broken, to impose the balance the universe lacked the will to create. People think the stones made me powerful. They're wrong. The stones made me capable. I was always powerful. Power is will, and I had infinite will. The stones just gave me the tools to manifest it, to turn conviction into reality, to make mathematics divine. I could have done anything, ruled, conquered, remade reality in my image, created a universe where I was worshipped, where Gamora still lived, where Titan never fell. But I didn't. Because this was never about me, it was about balance. So I snapped my fingers. One gesture, infinite consequence. Half of all life. Gone. Not to the void, not to suffering. Simply gone. Peacefully. Randomly. Fairly. I felt every death, every dissolution, every soul returning to cosmic dust, trillions, incomprehensible numbers. Each one a universe unto themselves. Gone. Because I willed it. And it nearly killed me. The gauntlet burned, my arm shattered, my body broke. But I smiled because it was done. The work of a lifetime. The promise to Titan. The burden of salvation. complete. They came for me. Of course they came. The Avengers, the heroes, the ones who couldn't accept necessity, couldn't understand sacrifice, couldn't see past their own loss to the universe I'd saved. And I welcomed them. Not for battle, for dialogue. I wanted them to see, to understand, to acknowledge that what I'd done, however painful, was right. But they couldn't. Iron Man with his ego, Captain America with his morality, Thor with his rage, all of them trapped in the small view, the personal view, unable to see cosmically. So I showed them the garden, the peace, the retirement, the simplicity of a man whose work was done. I had no armies, no weapons, no ambition left, just existence. Because the mission was complete. I wasn't a threat anymore. I was a farmer, watching sunsets, waiting to die, content. But they couldn't let it go, couldn't accept that it was over, couldn't live with the snap standing. So they killed me. Thor's axe through my chest. And my last words were truth. You should have gone for the head. Not a threat. Advice, because even in dying, even in defeat, I was trying to teach them. Trying to show them that half measures fail. That mercy to enemies is cruelty to innocence. That victory requires will. But they never learned. They undid it, brought everyone back, restored the imbalance, reset the clock on cosmic collapse, chose the comfort of the moment over the survival of the future. And when I saw what they'd done, when I came from the past and saw my work erased, I understood. They would never learn, never accept, never evolve past sentiment. So I adapted my mission. If they wouldn't accept balance through subtraction, I'd create balance through replacement. Destroy the universe. Build a new one. One that never knew what it lost. One grateful for salvation. One that wouldn't fight me because clearly, memory was the problem, not the solution. You think I'm the villain of this story? You think the heroes were right to stop me? You think bringing everyone back was victory? Let me ask you something. What happens now? The population that was unsustainable is back. The resource depletion that was accelerating continues. The cosmic collapse I prevented resumes. You got your friends back, your family, your loved ones. And in doing so, you doomed their children, their grandchildren, every generation that comes after. Because the math didn't change. Finite resources, infinite growth, inevitable collapse. I gave the universe a future. They gave it a present. And presents end. You celebrate the Avengers, call them heroes, build statues, tell stories, but what did they actually save? They saved today. I saved tomorrow. They prevented mourning. I prevented extinction. They chose feelings. I chose survival. And history will prove me right. Maybe not in your lifetime. Maybe not for generations. But eventually, the universe will face what I faced on Titan. And there will be no infinity stones. No magic solution, just mathematics. And collapse. And when that happens, when your children's children are starving, when your civilization is falling, when you finally understand what I understood, you'll remember Thanos, not as a villain, as a prophet, someone who saw clearly, who acted decisively, who loved you enough to do what you couldn't. I don't expect gratitude. Prophets never receive gratitude. Saviors are always crucified. Those who prevent disasters are forgotten, while those who respond to disasters are celebrated. But I don't need celebration. I don't need understanding. I don't need anything from you. I just need you to survive, even if you hate me for it, even if my name becomes a curse, even if history erases every true thing about me. As long as you survive, the work was worth it. I am Thanos, the mad titan, the one who snapped half the universe into dust, the monster who killed his daughter for a stone, the tyrant who thought himself a savior. But was I mad? Or was I the only sane one? Was I cruel? Or was I the only one willing to be kind in the way that actually matters? Was I wrong? Or was I just early? I've had time to think. In death. In defeat. In the dustbin of history where villains are thrown. And I've examined myself, searched for regret, for doubt, for the moment I went wrong, and I found nothing. I would do it all again, every choice, every sacrifice, every impossible decision, because I saw the alternative. I lived the alternative. I watched Titan die, watched billions suffer, watched paradise become hell, because no one had the will. I made sure the universe wouldn't repeat that mistake. And yes, it cost me everything. My home, my daughter, my life, my legacy, everything I was, everything I could have been, sacrificed. But that's what will means. That's what love means. Real love. Not the selfish love that holds tight. The selfless love that lets go. The love that accepts hatred. The love that becomes the villain. The love that sacrifices itself so others can live. You'll never understand, most of you. You'll tell stories about the mad titan, the monster, the cautionary tale. And that's fine, as long as you're alive to tell them. But some of you, a few of you, will look at resource charts, will see population projections, will do the mathematics, will understand what I understood, will see what I saw. And in that moment, you'll know. I wasn't mad, I was aware, and awareness is a burden, a curse, a responsibility you can never put down. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know, you can't unknow. Once you understand the equation, you can't pretend it doesn't exist. So you have a choice, ignore it and hope, or accept it and act. Most will choose hope. Hope is easier, hope is comfortable. Hope lets you sleep at night. But hope is just fear dressed in optimism, and fear solves nothing. I chose differently. I chose will. I chose action. I chose to be hated by the present, so I could save the future. And when I snapped my fingers, when I felt half the universe dissolve, when I became the greatest killer in history, I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief, because finally, the universe was balanced. The equation was solved. The work was done. I am inevitable. Not because I'm powerful, but because the truth I represent is inevitable. Finite resources, infinite growth, eventual collapse. That's not philosophy. That's not opinion. That's reality, and reality doesn't care about your feelings, your hopes, your heroes. It simply is. I am the voice of that reality, the arm of that necessity, the will of that mathematics, and I am inevitable. Not because I won, but because eventually, someone like me will. Someone who sees clearly, someone who acts decisively, someone who loves enough to be hated. The universe requires balance, and if you won't provide it willingly, someone will provide it forcefully. Remember my name, Thanos, the Titan who tried to save you from yourselves.